I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are talking to author Paul Page, who is the man behind a thrilling thriller called Along Came a Lion. Paul, welcome to our show.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you.
Great to have you. I love the title. I know James Patterson had a whole series of books that are based on children's nursery rhymes that had titles like Along Came a Spider, but this ups the game just a little bit.
Well, hopefully it's intriguing enough a title to get people that use that as their motivator to at least take a look at the book.
Absolutely. How did you come up with the title?
Well, the book has a lot of real subtle and some not so subtle religious allusions. And so I decided to have something that at least has sort of a religious tie. The lion is used as a figure in religious doctrine, so we decided to include it. Plus, it's kind of a cool sounding title.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's powerful, just like the book is powerful. Tell me how you came up with the ideas contained within this text.
Well, principally, we wanted to have a book that is a cautionary tale about not only foreign investment in the United States. Now, this is a book of fiction, but also the cult of personality and personality worship. And it's all centered around one particular person whose name is Calvin Meyer. He's a tech billionaire, and it turns out he's a lot more than that. And as the book progresses, the characters all come to realize that, but nobody knows it as you go. And we decided to make it very similar to what it would be in life, I imagine, which you just don't know if this is a good person or a bad person until ultimately they reveal themselves. So.
And I think that's what kind of makes a strong character in a book, that he or she is not purely good or evil, that they have characteristics of both. And it's basically up to you to decide whether this is a likable character or not, a relatable character or not.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is actually a very strong hook for a book. And if you can pull that off in your novel, I think you've done a good job. I think I've done a good job with it in this particular book. It was difficult to write because we never get into the mind of the main character, whose name is Calvin Meyer. You never get into his mind. The book is told from the perspective of an investigator who's investigating a crime. Little does he thinks the book and what he's writing is his investigation. And he's working for a newsprint. And it turns out the actual story is about him and his family and how it relates to Calvin Meyer. So
it's a very cool premise. And you have a background in investigation and the law. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I've been a lawyer for 20 years. And before that, I was an investigator for 13 years. And a lot of the nuances in the book come from my own information and my own background as well. So they're true to life. And the reader will be able to get actual stories, not made up fictional interactions. While the story is fictional, a lot of the details about how an investigation begins and continues and how it branches off is all true to life.
Now, how can viewers get a hold of this book?
Well, we're getting ready to launch it. So our launch date is prospectively November 1. We're also shopping it to traditional publication, and that's the only thing that would put that off the rails. So it will go off the rails if a publisher decides to pick it up, because they will pick the timeline then.
Okay, let's hear your elevator pitch for this book. You're talking to a prospective publisher, and you want to tell them, you want to sell them in a minute or two. Sell me, sell the viewers.
So this book is about a Chinese insurgency that is affecting a tech company which has developed very sophisticated weapons technologies. And the chief investigator in the book, his name is Daniel Cheris. He's investigating a crime and keeps stumbling across the various aspects of the Chinese insurgency. He has a counterpart in the FBI who's doing it from the opposite side. He's investigating the Chinese insurgency and keeps stumbling across elements of the crime. And as it turns out, the principal character is actually the owner of the tech company being targeted by the Chinese. A lot of nuances go in the book. It ends up with a lot of social commentary, there's a very publicized murder trial that has a lot of racist overtones. The Chinese take advantage of that, and they end up starting an insurgency in order to spread their own influence. And it leads to very interesting aspects of the book. I don't want to give it all away.
Absolutely
but that's how you learn that Calvin Meyer is more than just a tech billionaire.
Sounds great. You've gotten me hooked, that's for sure. Tell me a little bit about your writing process. When did you write this book? Is it mornings, noon, night? I know a lot of avid readers are also writers like myself.
Well, believe it or not, I've been writing this book for about 30 years. So many of the chapters I first wrote when I was in high school or right after high school. And over a period of time, I just write the book and then talk to my family about it. And my son, as he grew, we would interact and he would write portions of the stories that he thought were interesting. And we'd use it as kind of a family writing dialogue. But in 2020, my brothers challenged me to just finish the damn thing. So I sat down and wrote the rest of the book and put all the pieces that I decided to keep together and come up with the finished product that is Along Came a Lion.
That's amazing. When you said 30 years at first, I thought you were talking about your life experience and just writing it in your head, but you were actually physically writing it even as a youngster. And 2020 was the perfect time to pick up on any projects that had been put on the back burner.
Yes, it turned out to be a very good time to write. So because I'm a busy active lawyer, I currently practice. So my time is pretty much taken doing that. I can only write normally late at night when it's all quiet and my son's asleep and my wife's asleep. That's the only time. So I get a couple of hours to myself. And then I go to bed later than them. So that works out.
Sounds great. You know, I've perused the book a little bit. I've read the synopsis. The full text isn't out there yet. Tell me, though, if this were to be made a movie, and it seems like it's got that kind of possibility because of the action and the intrigue and the multi-layers of the movie, of the book. See, I'm already calling it a movie. If you were to cast this movie, who would you cast in this movie?
Oh, that's a very difficult one.
Okay.
I would imagine a very good character in the book to play Calvin Meyer. Wow, that's just tough. Who would I cast for the for the?
You know, it's a sign of a good question when you haven't already thought of it yourself.
Well, part of the problem, to be honest, Logan, is most of the characters in the book are very young, with the exception of the FBI agent and Daniel Cheris. The oldest character in the book is Calvin Meyer, and he's 30.
Right.
And so the rest of the characters are in their early 20s. So I don't know who I would cast in those locations. I know we did pick some models who approximated the characters for us, and that's who's on the cover of the book. And the cover of the book features the model that most identifies as Calvin Meyer to me, as well as Daniel Cheris and then his son David. And they're all on the cover of the book. But who would I cast?
Artwork is terrific. I'll definitely include that in your interview today for sure.
Thank you.
So we'll give the movie a little thought. It might be all new actors because they'll be young and up and coming if they're only in their 20s and the oldest 30. I wish you tremendous success with this book. It seems like it's going to hit a nerve with the reading public. I know there are a lot to the process that still goes on now with the query letters and the publishing and so forth. But we're going to keep an eye out for you in November. And when you do have a publisher and when you do start selling this perhaps on Amazon and other marketplaces, I hope you'll come back and talk about the availability of the book and the early reception.
Thank you, Logan. I certainly will. And I appreciate the invitation.
Okay,
Thank you.
Pearl. Thank you so much. We've been talking to author Paul Page, who is the author of a wonderful book, which I call a thrilling thriller called Along Came a Lion. I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.